What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back, and today I am bringing you our third and final worst Pokemon card investments you could have made video. Today I found 10 more of the worst investments you could have made if you bought Pokemon cards back in 2020. Now what happens is I go back and watch these auction recaps that I put out at the end of 2020, and I am just astounded at some of the prices that people paid for some of these cards. And I want to share it with you because I find it super interesting, so I know some of y'all are going to find it very interesting as well. And to those of you who say, oh, he's putting out another worst investments video, I'm tired of this. Relax, this is the third and final video. I got a lineup of 10 more investments that were just plain awful to make 3 years ago compared to what they sell for today. So I think you're going to find the video very interesting. When I go over these worst investments, I am not stating that I have never made a bad investment in the Pokemon TCG. Once again, if you need some proof of that, go and watch my top 5 worst investments mistakes video. And you'll see for yourself. And also note, as we go through these comparisons, we are comparing the tippy top range from when these cards were bought back in 2020. So the tippy top prices, and we're going to compare them to the price that they cost nowadays. Community, thank you for your support. As always, give the video a like. Don't forget to be a subscriber, and please use my eBay affiliate link in the description below. It doesn't cost you anything. If you go shopping on eBay, use that link. It gives me a small kickback, supports the channel tremendously. Thank you so much for doing that. So without further ado, this is the final 10 of the worst Pokemon card investments you could have made at the end of 2020. Starting off with the number 10 on our list, which is the PSA 10 First Edition Lugia Holo from Neo Genesis. This is an infamous sale from back in 2020, where a price of $129,000 was paid for this particular card. This auction result shocked the Pokemon card world for sure. This was definitely one of the most talked about auctions. However, if you fast forward to now, the most recent sale of a PSA 10 First Edition Lugia was for $28,800. So if my calculations are correct, and they always are, you would have a 77.7% loss on this particular card if you bought it back in 2020 compared to what you can buy it for now. And to be honest, folks, I'm not exactly sure why this card sold for so much back then. I mean, it is a relatively low pop card. Some speculate that it was really shill bedded. I don't know what happened. All I know is there was a sale for $129,000, and nowadays it's about $100,000 less for this card. So man, if I bought this card back in 2020 and I saw the sale prices today, I would be sick to my stomach. The number 9 worst investment on our list today is yet another Neo Genesis card. It is the PSA 9 First Edition Typhlosion 17 card. Now back in 2020, this card was selling for about $6,500, folks. $6,500. Fast forward to today, this card sells for around $1,300 for a PSA 9. Which if you bought back then and you sold today, it would have yielded you about an 80% loss. Now, what is crazy about this, folks, is that like 8 months prior to this card selling for $6,500, this card was selling for like $100 all day. I know I got my copy for about $100, and I know a few other sellers who were selling these, yeah, $90, $100, maybe a little bit more. So the fact that it went from $100 all the way up to $6,500 in less than a year is absolutely insane. The number 8 worst investment from 2020 would have to be the PSA 10 Charizard Holo from Evolution set. So at the end of 2020, we saw a sale of this particular card for $6,800. Meanwhile, today, not even a week ago, this card had sold in auction for $1,276, which would yield you an 81.2% loss if you bought back then and you sold today. Evolutions is still one of the most popular sets ever made, and this PSA 10 Charizard Holo from Evolutions is also very difficult to grade, so it surprises me that it came down so much. I mean, $1,276 is still a nice chunk of money for a modern Pokemon card, but with it being as hard as it is to grade, I'm kind of surprised it's gone that low, but what are you going to do? This is the number 8 worst investment you could have made. The number 7 card on our list today is very interesting. It is a PSA 10 First Edition Dark Kadabra from Team Rocket set that back in 2020 sold for about $315, while today this card sells for a mere $49 in auction, which would be an 84.4% loss. But let's go back to why this card sold for so much. And it wasn't just because it was 2020 and an insane period of hype, but this just so happened to be the time where Pokemon announced that it would be printing Kadabra cards again. So if you don't know, for the longest time they were really unable to print Kadabra cards because they had an issue way long ago with a magician guy named Yuri, I think, and they thought that they modeled Kadabra after him, so they ended up not being able to print any more Kadabra cards. So this was announced at this time, at the end of 2020, that they would start printing Kadabra cards again, and I think people thought maybe the old Kadabra cards would like shoot up to the moon. I don't know. I think that might have been a contributing factor, but nonetheless, this card had an 84.4% loss and is the number 7 on our list today. The number 6 worst investment from 2020 would have to be the PSA 9 base set unlimited Charizard. Folks, people were paying a disgusting amount for this card. There was a sale that went all the way up to $7,600 for this card. I even saw on an old auction recap a weak copy. The title had it as a PSA 9 weak copy that sold for $5,350 for a weak PSA 9. That's crazy. But 3 years later, and several thousands more graded, this card has now been reduced to the price of about $980. So yeah, the base set Charizard craze back then was definitely a head scratcher in terms of some of these prices. People just went absolutely nuts. They wanted to get their hands on a mint copy no matter what. And at this point, the PSA 10 copy was like way out of hand. It was like up to $30,000. So people were like, well, I can't afford $30,000, but I can afford a few $1,000s, so I gotta buy me a mint copy. I'm not sure what the rationale was, but it managed to be one of the worst investments that you could have made. The number 5 worst investment from 2020 is another modern card. It was the PSA 10 Charizard VMAX from Darkness Ablaze. This one's gonna hurt. This one's gonna hurt. Folks, I messed up on this one. I'll tell you here in a minute. But back in 2020, this card had a record sale for a PSA 10 of $662. And when we fast forward to today, it sells in auction for around $81. Yeah. So, disgustingly enough, that would yield you an 87.8% loss. Now, back at the end of 2020, I had actually purchased several of these PSA 10 Charizard VMAX cards. My hopes were that this card would maintain its value for what I bought it at. I was anticipating that maybe it would be like the Charizard GX from Burning Shadows and be difficult to grade, maybe harder to pull. I was very wrong.
Absolutely
wrong.
Proved.
Turns out this card is very easy to grade and also very easy to pull, which is evident by the pop report, as it has 14,298 PSA 10 examples. So yeah, when you have a card that has really good pull rates and it's also very well produced and easy to grade, turns out it's not very investment worthy. The number 4 worst investment on our list today is another Charizard VMAX. This is the PSA 10 Rainbow Rare Charizard VMAX from Champion's Path, which back in 2020 had an absolutely insane price for a PSA 10 of $2,325. And in today's market, it sells for about $270. So, this is brutal. This is brutal. That would have yielded you an 88.4% loss if you bought back when it first came out compared to what you can sell it for now. And unfortunately, this Charizard VMAX suffers the same issues as the Charizard VMAX we just covered from Darkness Ablaze. It's an easier card to grade. It was very plentiful, so that's a recipe for investment disaster if you ask me. Getting down to the final 3, we're going back to some vintage. Here we have a PSA 10 First Edition Charmander from Team Rocket. Yeah, Believe it or not, folks, this card was selling in auction for about $670. And today it sells for a whole lot less than that, as the most recent auction price I could find was for about $63. Folks, that is a 90.6% loss for this card. And I think the moral of this particular story is that you don't want to pay sky-high prices for common Pokemon cards, like Charmander. When you have a booster box of Pokemon cards, and you can pull the exact same card out of that box 12, 13, 14, 15 times, it's not very rare. And that's what happened to this Charmander. Packs were ripped, boxes were broken, tons and tons of Charmanders were pulled and sent for grading. Charmander is not the only common card offender on our list. Let's get to the number 2, which was the PSA 10 Unlimited Base Set Squirtle. Back in 2020, this card had sold for $570. And today, this card is merely a fraction of that price, as it most recently sold for about $52, which would yield you about a 91% loss. And just like the Charmander, folks, the base set unlimited commons and uncommons were totally saturating the market. That's why they called it base set unlimited, because felt like an unlimited amount of these cards. They had many more print runs than, let's say, first edition base. So yeah, the unlimited base set Squirtle did not hold up its value, which brings me to the number 1 card on our list today, the final card of this series. It is the PSA 10 Unlimited base set Bulbasaur, which sold in 2020 as a PSA 10 for $610, while today you can sell this card for about $52, which would yield you a 91.5% loss if you bought back at the end of 2020 and you went to sell today. That's all I got for you, folks. I appreciate you watching the series. If you didn't watch the first 2 parts, I recommend that you go do so. I will link those videos in the description below. If nothing else, folks, it's a learning experience, right? So let's learn from our past mistakes and make better decisions for our future. Thanks again for watching, folks. I really, really appreciate it. That's all I got for you. Hope you enjoyed this series. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you all in my next one.